All right, good afternoon. We are going to call this regular meeting of the City Plan Commission to order. Today is Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. It is 4:48 p.m. We will call this meeting to order and do a roll call, starting with Noel.
Noel Sanchez.
Charlotte Lipschitz.
Sid McKenna.
Miguel Casella.
Cheyenne Mandrakar, DPD staff.
Bob Azar, DPD staff.
Sharon Garner, legal counsel.
And I am Michael Gazdaco, Chair. Next up is approval of minutes from the July 15th, 2025 meeting. Hopefully you all have received them in advance, had a chance to review them. If you have any changes, edits, concerns with the meeting minutes as drafted, please voice them now. If not, we'll take a motion to approve as drafted.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a fully formed motion. All in favor of approving the minutes from July 15th as drafted, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the minutes are approved. And next up is the director's report.
Okay, the only thing I wanted to talk about is our design standards committee that continues to meet. We have a meeting tomorrow. We have planned for this to be the last meeting, although there may be some additional cleanup, and we hope to have some draft design regulations to you, if not next month, then the month after. So that's moving along very well.
Good, that's exciting.
Yeah.
All right, then with that, we will jump into the first agenda item, which is a request for extension. It's case number 23-065 MI 125 Tobey Street.
Thank you. Dylan Conley on behalf of the applicant. Specific to 125 Tobey.
Very close to this.
Specific to 125 Tobey. This project is basically earmarked to be an affordable project as part of a commitment that the client made to the council person. The challenge with the affordability has been identifying which programs will be applicable and whether or not 8 law will be applicable. Our request for an extension, there is no limit in the extension time period, so we would request a 2-year extension. Even in the absence of 8 law, in practice, the TSA procedure is remarkably long to the point of indefinite. There is no way for us to actually get a formal hearing. We can keep requesting it, but it will be scheduled at the council's pleasure. It is also going through finance committee. Finance committee in and of itself is undergoing a structural change. We've been pursuing on each of the projects I'm here in front of you today, one form of a TSA or another is involved. And we have absolutely no clarity on when that process will conclude. So we're kind of caught between you're required to get entitlements in order to process a TSA. There's a deadline for taking action on the entitlements, but no deadline for when the council needs to review a TSA application. So they can kind of not hear us indefinitely, and there's not a lot we can do about it. And we don't know whether or not the project pencils. Well, we know it doesn't pencil at market. We don't know, depending on the TSA that they grant or the final form of 8 law, we don't know whether or not the project pencils.
Okay, so what is the reason you haven't recorded the final plan or submitted the final plan? Because once you do that, it's proof. There's no expiration, right? Then it's recorded and it's good.
Basically the same outline. It's how much more funds do we want to expend with the uncertainty of whether or not we can ever actually build it. And when I say whether or not we can build it, I mean from a financial standpoint.
Now, I think most of these were put through because you have are you on 2 and 3 as well? We're just talking about 1 anyway, so
I believe all the
one
extensions.
this was in 2023 before the regulations changed as far as dimensional, the size of the building, the height, when we updated our regulations, right?
I'm very confident that applies to 20 America and 64 America. I am not 100% sure how that applies to 125 Toby, but I don't dispute it. They're all in the same time period.
Cause this is basically, the 125 Toby is building on the left, if I'm looking at it straight from
Yep.
Toby Street. It's building another building on the left side, next to the building that's already been built, as I recall, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and how many units was that?
I believe we were at 16. But that number may reduce depending on what the tax handling of the project ends up being.
And this is zoned
I believe this portion of
R4?
yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Mhm.
Yeah, so just to kind of elaborate for the commission's benefit. All three of these projects sought a zoning change to R4. And this preceded the comprehensive plan. This preceded the larger upzoning that we did in the city. For all of these projects, all around them now is R4. So these would have been rezoned R4 had they not been previously. I believe the only difference between the R4 that was granted in conjunction with each of these land development projects and what R4 would afford today is that for these, the dwelling unit density is higher than what would be allowed today. And I believe that they're seeking, so also there's been a change in the land development regulations in a way that each of these projects, if they came in today and they were fully compliant with R4, they wouldn't have to come to the city plan commission. They would be approved administratively.
Yeah.
So if you had a project that was vested under today's R4 regulations, and you needed more time and it expired, all you'd have to do is reapply and get it administratively approved. I think what's happening here is that these projects have vesting for something that's more intensive than is permitted under the existing regulations. If these expire, they can't come back and get the same thing reinstated.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was asking,
Yeah.
because we updated the comp plan and the dimensional regulations to better fit based on a lot of projects that were coming in with this new R4 that we had started utilizing to sort of right size everything and make it feel like it was appropriate and I'm wondering if that applies to these lots and I'm just asking the question like this.
This is not, I think for each of these, it's not the outrageous scenario that was posed in at least one other project that you might be thinking of.
Oh, yeah.
But you should know that this is different than what the comp plan and the zoning says today. And, you know, I would argue that one of the reasons for having these expirations is so that if the city decides it wants to go in a different direction, it's not, you know, bound forever to accept a project. Like you mentioned earlier, all you gotta do is record final plan and you're vested forever.
Right.
So they don't wanna do that. These projects have been in the pipeline since late 2023.
Right.
I sympathize with Mr. Conley with respect to the tax stabilization plan. I think there is it is something that's not predictable. You can't count on the council to hear something within a certain amount of time or to approve something for any, or deny something for any reason or no reason.
Right.
And there is some, if these were, one or more of these were to be an affordable project, it's unclear if they would qualify for 8 law today or under a new law that might be approved. So, if you feel like you're still, supportive of these projects because they're good projects, because they're adding housing in the neighborhood, then I think an extension is appropriate. My personal opinion is that 2 years is too long.
That's just what I wrote here, maybe
Yeah.
1 year. Yeah, I don't think this should go on forever indefinitely. I think, I mean, I empathize with your trouble with the council and having them, solidify any financial incentives, but again, it's not, I don't think it's a heavy lift to file final plan, and I think that if you're serious about the project, I think that's what should happen, or the project goes away and, someone else comes in and builds something that's within the regulations today, and it's much easier to do today than it was 2 years ago when we heard you the first time on this one. So this is 16 units or less on Tobey,
Yes,
and you can say unequivocally that this is intended to be mixed income or moderate or low income housing.
Yes.
Some sort of income
Yeah.
threshold.
yes.
Okay. Well, then, with that in mind, I definitely am supportive of continuing this, especially if it wouldn't, it may not meet that requirement, or threshold if it were under today's, but I do say 1 year, I think is more than enough time.
Can I ask one question? Do folks from the planning department know how many units would be allowed by today's R4?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So what we have, I'm just looking back at our records, we have this as a 14-unit apartment building. And 125 Tobey, bear with me just a minute here. This is a little, I can't give you,
This is hard because it's kind of splitting the parcel down
yeah,
the
I
middle,
can't give you
right?
absolute precision, but this is 8,400 square feet of land. Dylan, do you happen to know how many units are in the existing building?
I don't.
Is it a 2 or, it looks like it's at least a 2, maybe a 3 family?
I could see if I could figure that out.
There's
But-
3 mailboxes on the front.
So 8,400 square feet supports just about 17 units for the whole parcel at 500 square feet per unit. So they're in the ballpark. They may even comply with this one. I think the other ones are a little different.
So if it's 14 in the new and 3 in the existing, based on the mailboxes, that's what it looks like. It's pretty close anyway.
And can't you add an ADU on?
You could add an
So it's
ADU.
really seven.
Yeah,
Let's say.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this one's not bad. Pretty close.
Well, let's stay on this one, then we'll look at each one individually as we go down, but I think on this one.
You want me to run the numbers on the other one?
Yeah.
I have a quick question, just since they hadn't filed the plan, where is it memorialized that it will be affordable housing if we don't have anything filed?
Well, maybe the attorney can speak to this.
I'm gonna be speaking from memory, so there's a chance that I'm not 100% on this. We have committed to it on the record. We have committed to it directly with the council person. We've committed to it on record in multiple forums. I believe that we volunteered that as a condition on our application, and this city said that we could not condition a zone change based on affordability. There's a small chance that that was related to a separate project over on Ring Street, and I may be conflating the two because I was working on them both at the same time period with the same council person. But there is a hard and fast commitment on this being affordable, and the building was completely redesigned as a result of that pivot at one point in the process.
And we're not able to condition our approval on it being affordable, but he is testifying to it today that it will be, and we can go back to the transcript to make sure that occurs.
And then my second question is, just, and for you maybe, Michael and Bob, without it having the final plan filed, like, what's the exposure for the city, or, I mean, what's the, if they haven't, if the bar is that they have to file the final plan, and they haven't done that yet, and they're asking for an extension, what's the downside of the extension?
That they're allowed to build something that they wouldn't otherwise be allowed to build under the new rules. This
But
is
it
gonna
sounds
apply, this is gonna apply less to this one
Okay,
than it is to the
okay,
next
because I was
two.
gonna say, it sounds like the new rules permit it, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because I just
And you
figured
know,
that
like,
out.
these were, as I was looking at the package, I was trying to remember these as they came through, and there were a whole bunch of R4 zone changes and development plans that were coming through before the regulations were changed and took hold. And that was because there were going to be limits on density, there were gonna be setbacks, there were going to be changes in what is allowed, pervious and impervious. There were gonna be changes based on us seeing a whole bunch of these projects, and that's why I'm questioning it, because we did change it for a reason, along with the city council, and that's why I wanna make sure that we still want these to happen, that's all. Cause the bar is pretty low to get them filed. So if you wanna preserve them, so I'm okay on this one, just as we're here, cause we're on this one first. I'm okay with 1 year. I think 2 years is too much, and if they need another year, I don't know what to say. You can still file your final plan, even if you don't have your TSA or your low income tax credits or things like that. That's not, it's not a chicken and egg thing. It can definitely happen on different paths. So that's my recommendation.
Yeah.
I mean, is this public hearing? So do we have?
No.
Okay,
I was gonna say, I'm fine to make a motion to, I guess grant a 1-year extension, to their application.
Is this because one?
we're only talking about
I
Toby
think we're
right now,
just talking
yeah,
about the first
because that's what
one,
we said, okay? So, we have a motion for a 1-year extension, for the validity of preliminary plan. Do we have a second?
Second,
All right, we have a fully formed motion. We'll go around and take a vote. Noel,
what would I?
Charlotte,
Aye.
Sid,
I,
Miguel,
Aye.
and I vote aye. All right, next up, case number 23066 MI 64 America Street. Tell us a little about this one, Dylan. Is it the same?
It's similar, so 64 America and 20 America are very close in proximity to each other. There are two projects that are sort of following each other. I know that this is the presentation relative to 64 America, but the delays in 64 America are largely related to 20 America. 20 America, the delays in the TSA review have caused a series of ownership changes, construction manager changes, contract changes. So all these things roll downhill. There's a chance that this has actually been completed in between the time which we submitted for the extension request and today. I was unable to confirm that before the hearing this evening, but I know that it is that imminent, that the project is completely designed. We are awaiting a TSA hearing and that's it, and have been for a considerable period of time.
And these two are tied together as far as, and you're saying that the final plan, the owners don't want to file the final plan until they have the TSA?
That has been a point of discussion amongst the owners. The ownership group has been fluid because of delays. And they've had to rebid it a couple of times. So when the TSA delay continues, right, you start to have to do your costs based on a new paradigm, so that then you start to redesign the building to try to make it cheaper. And so you keep redesigning the building to try to make it affordable to construct. And as a result, you can't finish final plan because you're like iterating and iterating and iterating to try to get the dollars down.
Okay, so let's start with 64. What did we approve there?
what I see is that you approved 26 units. There's a existing building on the site that seems to have 3 mailboxes.
That's what
We'll
it's.
call it 3 units.
Mhm.
The lot is 8,381 square feet, which would allow for 16 units plus ADU. So they would, 16 units plus ADU would mean that in the new building, you could put 13 units plus ADU. And they're asking for 26, which would be a total of 26 plus 3 is 29. So they want a total of 29 units where, call it 17.
17, yeah. So an additional 12 units on this parcel, give or take.
Yep.
Okay,
Sorry, and then this is another one where there's an existing building on the corner at 64 America and they're
and you see that
basically
lot.
abutting to
Yeah.
it.
Did we get height on these? Or was it
No.
just,
No,
okay,
not that I recall.
and then on 20 America, since you brought up both of them, what did we, that's a vacant lot.
20 America is a vacant lot. 5,239 square feet, they'd be allowed 10 units plus ADU, that's 11, and the proposal is for 19.
And these are not. Both of these, 64 America and 20 America, Mr. Conley, they're not affordable, these are just market rate.
Market rate, correct.
Okay,
The potential for their affordability is tied to the uncertainty of 8 law and the TSA process. If you can't get a TSA, but 8 law has a very clear path, and that's something that would be considered by the applicant. A little bit less so in 20 America as far along as it is. But no, there's no, on distinct from Toby, there is no guarantee on the record of affordability.
Bob, if there's an ownership change and final plan has been recorded, doesn't the final plan go with the parcel?
Yes.
Not with the applicant?
Correct.
That's what I thought.
I will reiterate that it has not just been an ownership change as a result of the delays. There's also been a series of design changes.
Right.
At 20 America. 60 America has largely been static because of the issues at 20 America.
Okay. What kind of design change?
Yeah, I just want to note if they're significant to require review by the city plan commission.
That would be a
Do
change.
you know if they are?
They're all reductions. They're reduction in unit count, reduction in building size.
Okay. I mean, there are criteria for major and minor changes in our land development regulations. I advise you to make sure you're aware of those,
We are.
because even reductions can sometimes trigger a major change.
Because it's based on the percent change plus or
Yeah,
minus, correct?
Yeah,
And that is in unit counts and size, et cetera. I don't know, on these, I'm thinking maybe 6 months is more than enough time to figure out if you're at the finish line.
Yes, and I was gonna also ask what was, because the holdup obviously was out of your control with the city council on the first one, but on these two, that's not pertinent. So it's just a design.
It's the same. So on 125 Toby, we do not know 8 law eligibility. It's unclear. And on 20 America, we've been pending TSA review for at least 6 months.
You said you're almost there, right?
Yes,
No.
that one is very, very close if it has not been recorded within the past week, but I haven't been able to get a hold of anyone before the hearing today.
So I would think that like another 6 months would be more than sufficient.
No objection, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
Okay,
that's easy.
yeah, okay, then I'd support 6 months on both.
Are we?
I think we can take the first one first is, you know. Or is it okay to do both together? Yeah. They're just extensions, so yeah, we can do them together. For
And the
both
effect of-
64 America and 20
The
America Street.
effect of denying the extension would be that then they wouldn't be able to design something of this density.
They would have to come back and comply or come back and ask for relief. Or comply, right?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we should do separate vote, though, just in case people have different feelings about the different.
Yeah, absolutely. There are two different applications.
So if somebody's gonna vote differently on one versus the
Yep.
other.
So let's start with 64 America Street. Does anyone have any feelings or care to make a motion on an extension for the approvals of the preliminary plan for that?
For 6 months, so moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we'll go around and vote. Noel,
I'll vote aye.
Charlotte,
Aye.
Sid,
Aye.
Miguel,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Now we'll go to 20 America Street, case number 23-067 MI. Anyone care to make a motion on that one?
I'll make a motion for a 6-month extension, to the validity of the preliminary plan.
Okay, for the motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we'll go around and vote. Noel,
I vote against it.
okay, Charlotte,
Aye.
Sid,
Aye.
Miguel,
Aye.
and I vote aye. All right,
Thank
I
you.
suggest getting these wrapped up and get them recorded. Next is a city council referral number 3602.
Okay, I will give an overview of this. This is a proposed change to the zoning ordinance related to cannabis regulation. And the primary reason behind these changes are that the state of Rhode Island Cannabis Commission issued new regulations for retail licenses. And they are a little bit different than what we contemplated in our regulations. The way we contemplated this is that you would get a license from the state and then get your local approval. But the way they wrote their regulations at the state level is that you have to get your local approval before you get a license. So the lion's share of the changes here are to remove that inconsistency. Everything you see on the first page is related to that. On the second page, item number 7, there's some fine language in there. Our law department has reviewed this and determined that there can't be separate fines other than the sort of general fines for zoning violations. So they've stricken this language. Any fines have to be the standard zoning fines. So let's see.
Is that the second part of 7? In terms of the notice?
Yeah, well, there's 8, which is the notice that gets submitted to the city clerk. And it's notice of the special use permit application. Because remember, you're going for your special use permit and then you have to get your license afterwards. The city sends out notice. The city clerk doesn't have to do this. The zoning board sends out that notice. Okay. Now you'll see in JJ number 1, where it said the zoning board may limit the use to less than for what it's licensed. They're not going to be licensed when they come to the zoning board. And then, you'll see in 3, again, this business about licensing. The change in the second one there about odor, that's just sort of semantics, just a rewording there. Again, removing the fines. A lot of these things are kind of, redundant because they apply to the 3 different categories of cannabis retailers. So that's basically it. It's just a kind of cleanup to be consistent with state law, state regulation, and a little bit of grammatical change. But other than that, that's what it is. We still are consistent with the licensing at the state level for these new types of retailers. There's still, the state rules about the number of licenses that can be granted for any given number of zones within the state. So it's more or less status quo.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm
for
sorry,
Bob on this?
can you clarify on the, if I understood you correctly about the notice to the abutters, we're just taking away, is redundant because it's asking the applicant to do it, but you're saying the city is already doing that? When they apply for the license?
Yes,
Okay.
where it says the applicant sends notice.
Right,
When you apply for a special use permit, the city
you
sends.
can do it
that
already,
notice.
so it's just
Yeah.
redundancy. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Bob? Well, I don't believe this is a public hearing. I will open it up to public comment if anyone has any. If you're here to comment on the cannabis regulation amendment, which is a referral of the city council, please raise your hand in the room, or if you're joining us online, raise your virtual hand or press *9 if you're calling in. And seeing none, we will close public comment portion. This seems pretty straightforward to me. And I'm happy to give a positive recommendation to the city council to change so that we are aligned with the new regulations promulgated by the Cannabis Control Commission.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And we'll go around and vote. Noel?
Aye.
Charlie?
Aye.
Sid?
Aye.
Miguel?
Aye.
And I vote aye. All right, next up. We have a major change to an approved project. Case number 22-033 MA. It's 116 Waterman Street.
Sure, and commissioners, I'll provide a quick introduction. So this is a major change to an approved plan for a building that's at the corner of Waterman and Brook Streets. And when you had approved this project, you had done it with a design waiver, which allowed the and that design waiver would pertain to the proximity of residential or non-commercial space within 20 feet of a main street. And in this case, both Brook Street as well as Waterman Street are considered main streets. So the applicant is here to amend that design waiver as they are proposing to add a dwelling unit on a portion of the Brook Street frontage, which is currently in an area designated for common space. So I guess the applicant's here and they're gonna tell you more about why this is being requested.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, John Garrity on behalf of the applicant. I do have, I'm not sure this was included within the package. If there wasn't, I have 10 copies to pass out, which included my letter requesting the change, as well as some pictures showing the area at issue, as well as a floor plan showing what's going to be included as a unit. I'll try and pass those out, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, absolutely. The schematic design SK7 was included on the website,
Thank you.
but your letter was not, so.
So I think they
You can go ahead while he's handing that out.
I think they gave away my copy, so if I.
Pass one back to him.
All right, yeah.
I'll share with Bob for now.
Here's the next one here.
You have an extra?
So, Mr. Chairman, as indicated, this is a unique situation because the property is on two so-called main streets. Waterman Street does have a commercial frontage, which does go over into Brook Street. So that Brook Street and Waterman Street do have a commercial use on it. The present use is occupied by common space, which is frankly not the best use for it. And it doesn't, if you look at it on the pictures, the use and the way that it's going to be seen from the outside is going to be exactly the same. There's going to be no change to the exterior. So you have common space, which is used as a common area, maybe a gym that's going to be converted into a unit, which clearly is more useful space. And you will see no change. You will continue to have the commercial space on Waterman Street, which, as I indicated, goes over onto Brook. So you do have that use of the commercial space. It's going to be a coffee shop, which is going to be starting there in September or October. And I will also add, with respect to this unit, it's always interesting when we come here before you and they're shown on a plan, and then they are actually constructed. I suggest to you, it's a beautiful building. And one of the things that we promised to you is that we were gonna have 24-hour management with respect to this unit and the other unit, which is proposed at 108 Waterman Street. So there is a guard shack in the back, which is for the security, which is on the exterior of the building. So that has provided as a amenity, if you will, but certainly it provides security for this area as well. So happy to answer any questions, but that's what's proposed. Instead of the common area, it's going to be a unit on that space. The exterior will not change one iota, and you'll see no change other than the unit being added.
I think my only question was about the commercial space in this building, because I drive by it frequently and I haven't seen it
Yeah.
actually there yet.
Yeah.
So you said it's opening in September?
I can tell you that a lease has been signed. I'm not sure I'm at liberty to say it's gonna be a
That's fine.
cafe.
Yep.
A cafe, but a lease has.
And it'll be open to the public, not just the residents of the building?
It'll be open to the public.
Okay,
And that space in the front is not accessible to the units to the residential units. There is a door which goes into some common space in the back, but essentially that's public space, not space connected with the residential use of the property.
okay, that was my question.
What was it used for before? The space that's turning into the unit, what was it before?
There's nothing before. It was vacant. It has been vacant.
Because it needed commercial frontage on both Brook and Waterman.
Right, but so. it was
No.
intended
I
as
thought
a
you said
commercial-
it was a
I thought
common.
you
No. It was, the plans you approved identified this as a common space for the residents.
Oh,
Got it. I think I came out right after this proposal came through, so I don't remember it, but.
okay, sorry, I misunderstood. Question.
Just so everybody can see what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
This image is in your staff report. It's this space right here. In the back, there's 4 windows that correspond with the floor plan that you see in your package.
Bedroom.
This was approved as a common space, and they want to turn it into a residential unit. This is already a residential unit. You
Right.
granted a waiver for this, and they're asking for an additional, or sort of a slightly more of a waiver for this space to become residential.
I think the thing that's confusing me about the plans is that it looks like there's some sort of like storefront or curtain wall, but it's actually punched openings here.
Punched openings here.
Okay, and I'm assuming that it still meets all the like transparency requirements. If there are any now.
Yes.
Okay,
And none of that's changing. The exterior facade's not changing.
If I remember correctly, there was two doors.
Not on this side.
There
were
was one
there?
on this side, and one around the back.
There's one.
There is a
there's one
door,
there.
there's a door right here.
It's the tower right there.
Yeah.
And then there's a door on Fountains Alley.
Yeah, there was one on the alley. Yeah, they don't show up on the plan.
Yeah, back, one on each side, it looks like, right?
Well, then the plan that's here.
This side and then the opposite side. On the last page, you can see well, it doesn't show the door, actually, you're right, to this side. Because it exits probably, I don't think it exits on Forms Alley, I think it exits on the side of the building.
There is a, what you're looking at.
This is what he passed around, so there's only one copy of this.
You know what I'm saying?
The plans for this changed about 1,000 times after they got approval. And there was a lot of discussion in-house about what they were actually building. So it would not surprise me if you're seeing things that are inconsistent. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I'm not sure it's relevant where the actual doors are to the building. The only thing that's relevant is that this area in white that's not hatched was programmed as common space, and now they're attempting to get it programmed as a residential unit.
But the reason I bring it up is because we did approve it, but with entrances for people. For people moving on Fawns Alley and also on Brook Street.
This is Forms Alley, right?
Yeah, I mean, they
I
put,
vaguely remember that, but,
they put the entrance on the west side of the building. You can see that door.
I remember the discussion was so that there would be people moving on Brook Street and on that street. And they're not there.
Yeah, the other thing I might add, and I'm not 100% sure about this, but the elevation is different down there, so there might be a ground floor entrance, which is not the first floor entrance. No?
No,
Okay.
no. Oh, there is, so there is I'm sorry, John, you're right. Yeah, below that staircase on Brook Street, everybody. So this staircase right here, there's not showing an entrance because the entrance is a level below.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is there an entrance or exit on Forms, on the alley behind? We can't tell from this because this is the first floor,
I
but
think so, but I can't say with 100% certainty, looking at this right now.
I mean, it seems like that couldn't be right because we're looking at a plan that's at an elevation that's actually closer to that
I
elevation.
would think so. They'd have to have a well of some sort to get out below that level because
Yeah,
the elevation is,
I think that's right.
you're absolutely correct there. Oh, it says the Carlisle instead of the cafe on Waterman.
Yeah.
Yeah, Google only has the front. It hasn't taken the Brook Street side yet. It's only done the Waterman angle. Well, I understand what you're saying, Noel. I don't know that that's germane to this conversation because it's already been approved or been deemed compliant with our original approvals because it's as a certificate of occupancy and it's been operating as an apartment building for more than a year, I know. People have been living there. So that's that ship has sailed, whether,
I will say that people have been paying attention to that it is in compliance with your requirements.
so the question before us right now is the common space that is currently used as common space now. And the reason is because there's a prohibition of residential within a certain distance of a main street, and Brook Inn and Waterman on this project are a main street. I mean, in the grand scheme of things on this building, this doesn't really bother me. Nothing's changing from the outside. Nothing's changing from the street view. There was never going to be a commercial unit here with communication to the sidewalk, so
Yeah, I guess.
I don't see any issue with this.
What we're seeing, I think that was the thing I wanted to, I know Noel's concerned about the entrances on Ponzelli, which I also understand, and not, again, I wasn't in this initial hearing, but I think, there was never planned to be any sort of entrance into this space from Brook or
No.
storefront or.
Not as I recall from Brook Street.
Just for the tennis.
I mean, you know,
I can't
you'd have to ask the architect or the applicant that, but there was never a plan that was submitted that showed an entrance into that common space.
Okay.
The entrance was gonna be into the internal circulation system, and I believe it's, I mean, I'm only trying to remember, it may have originated on Phones Alley, but then been brought around to the
Right.
western elevation for whatever reason. And we would have considered that frankly a de minimis change to the plan.
Got it.
So he's not here asking for that change. It's already been, if it was approved that way, it's already been
If I
changed. and
remember
he's-
correctly, there was more traffic into the building. from
Right.
Palms Valley side. This was an open spot.
Mhm.
Now it's kind of been blocked off.
So now the main residential entrance is off Brook Street in that
Right.
floor below that we saw in that elevation, correct?
I'm sorry, were you asking me a question?
I was asking.
Oh.
Gary.
Is that correct? I'm
Yeah, that
actually
is-
curious
that is-
about
yeah.
how people
Well,
enter into
that's one of the
residence.
entrances, one of the entrances is on the opposite sides of Ponds Alley. And
Okay.
again, I do, I can't commit, but
Oh, right, there's an elevator there, so that's probably one of the more main entrances, because there's a stairwell and a lobby there, and an elevator. I'm sorry.
Yes.
The elevator.
Yeah, okay. And the cafe on Waterman, it looks like in the plan, there's also a stair up from that space that I guess residents could enter.
So let's be clear that there is an agreement with the city that there's not gonna be any, there is a stairway that goes down to the basement there for storage of items at that place. And there is an agreement with the city that there is not gonna be general access through the front door into that space for residences.
Got it, okay.
That's not what was built. You know, I'm gonna express a little bit of frustration here, but trying to figure out that there are, in the application for the building permit, there are 50 attachments. There were a lot of changes to this, as it was being constructed. And that staircase, that is not what that's wrong. It doesn't look like that. That's not there. There's a door at the back of that space, and it's a like 3 or 4 steps down, I
That's
think.
true, Bob. You're right.
So, you know, this is the frustrating part. Your architect is drawing on plans that aren't current, and we don't know what the plan is.
So.
I mean, again, like you're being asked to look at this in a vacuum, and you're not looking at it in a vacuum.
Right,
You're sort of And I'm not saying it's bad, but
No, I
you're kind of
understand that.
insisting on looking at the bigger picture, which is absolutely fine, and I think within your purview. I think for the applicant's purposes, all they want you to do is look at this. If you think that you can't look at this without looking at everything else, then
I guess.
They actually want us to look at less, because if you see what was submitted originally, it's this cut, this snip of
yeah,
this.
and look, let's be honest here. This building was redesigned in large part because this space that is now set to be a cafe, when this building opened, it wasn't gonna be a commercial space. It was a residential lobby. We took issue with that, and we ended up working out a consent agreement with the applicant where they would turn this into a proper space. Is it possible that this space, that there were other changes to the ground floor because this space was gonna be used as a residential lobby? Yes, it's possible.
I'd say
So
probable.
My frustration is that I remember the discussion about human scale and traffic on Brook Street and the back streets. And now we built a building where nobody walks again.
Well, you have to go down Phones Alley to get to the residential entrance.
You do your.
The residential entrance,
You can drive around.
well, there's no parking. So you have to go, up until a few months ago, you had two ways of getting into the residential portion. One was through the front door at 116 Waterman, and the other one was around Phones Alley and around the corner. Now, even more traffic is gonna be pedestrian on Phones Alley because that's the only way in for residents. There's an exit out onto Brook Street, but that I don't believe is a residential entrance.
Yeah, it is a residential.
Oh, it is on Brook Street?
Yeah, key carded entrance.
Oh, okay, all right, so there's two. There's now entrances on Brook Street and then on the western elevation. I mean, in terms of foot traffic on Phones Alley, I think it's probably no different.
Right, I think the Brook Street.
And there is that little kiosk behind, so I don't know if residents take advantage of that or if that's just your security person.
It's for security purposes. When you say take advantage of.
Like, do residents need to go there on any kind of regular basis?
No, that's where the security is
okay.
maintained.
As frustrating as this is, I still am looking at what's in front of us today and setting aside all of the issues I have with the building overall, what was built versus what was approved by us and then in some way approved by the building official. This change is not germane to anything that we will ever realize or even think about other than here in this meeting. It's not going to change anything in the way this building acts or operates today. And I don't have an issue with it.
Oh, I understand that part. It's just frustrating that it seems like we gave an approval for one change and now because the change was changed, now the other change is possible. Not the first time
Oh,
we've been in this situation.
And I think you're absolutely valid in that point of view, and I agree with you. But after we approved it, someone else must have thought that it still met the intent of our approval by whatever was eventually built, because he wouldn't have gotten a CO without it.
I guess, so I tend to agree with you that it's not gonna change anything about what is there today and it's built and it is kind of what it is. I guess the one thing that I'd like, my sort of takeaway from this conversation and looking at this plan, is just, kind of in thinking about this for future cases in the future, sort of the zoning that we have, I think that having this back corner as a commercial presence or as an active use would be better. And so I guess I my only hesitation is that in being lenient here, it's sort of like opening the door for future cases to kind of ignore this requirement. And I think a lot of times we get grant relief on this requirement, because we want more housing and the city needs housing and that's really important. And I know this is a weird lot because there's two main streets, and so I understand the kind of hardship around that. But I also think like this is a case where that active use actually would have been really nice.
And I think just on the subject of active use, like, is this used, this common area? Do people, is it activated? Is it actually, Jim? Because that is active, you know what I mean?
Well,
Because,
it's not activated from the street, so they're not changing any openings or anything from the street, you know, as a pass buyer. There's gonna be no change in this building.
I mean,
when you
I
drive
would-
or walk by.
I would disagree though, because the building down here behind the jewelry district that has a gym that's active all the time, it doesn't have shades. And you walk by, there's people in there working out, looking at you, you're looking at them, you feel safer on the street. I mean, it's activated.
Right.
And so I think when you turn something into a residential, and now you have windows closed and shades down, it's not activated. And you don't have that same sense of interaction with the street. So I think it is important. If it's a dead space and no one uses it and the shades are always, that's a different thing, but I'm curious to what it actually is right now.
Well, it's a common area, and I think it may have some gym equipment in. I'm told
So
it's
it's a
not
gym.
used, it's not, well, it's not used a lot, it's not used a lot. And to have that space available and not used by the residents. And it doesn't have to be commercial space, it's not required to be commercial space, it just can't be parking or residential space under the design regulations.
Relatively easy request. You're not making this very easy for us. Miguel, Noel, any final thoughts on this? Because I think at some point we're gonna have to.
One other point
Yep.
on this, if I can. So you have I don't know how many units going up directly across the street, which is not bound by this requirement. Because it's in the R4 zone, not the C2 zone. So you have, so you have one building that's subject to it on this side of the street and one building on this side of the street that's not subject to the requirement. So it is, as I said, it's a bit unique. It's got two main streets, plus it's got a zone line right down Brook Street that creates different situations on each side of the building. So that project on the other side of the street is not subject to those requirements. So that's a bit unfair being right across the street from each other.
But isn't the issue, living space or sleeping space within 20 feet of a main street?
It is, and the, based on the way the zoning is written, main streets are only in certain areas and they're only adjacent to commercial zones. So that building that you approved a couple of months back,
Are you
essentially
speaking about,
across,
like Angel and Brook?
yeah,
Is that
Angel
what
and
we're talking
Brook.
about?
Street,
Yeah.
The Brook Street and the building that's going on.
Yeah, that one, on that side of the street, it's not commercial zoning, so there's no main street requirement.
So there's allowed in that building. Living.
Not
space
to
within
have,
20 feet
correct.
of the-
Now, yeah, and so. And remember that you granted this waiver for Brook Street. You granted it for a certain percentage of Brook Street, not to have to have residential in that 20-foot space. What he's asking for you to do is extend that out by a little bit. And the point we made when this first came up was that this building is gonna have commercial along Waterman, which in our opinion was a more important main street than Brook Street. Brook Street honestly is, I think, you know, this was an ordinance that was put into place, advocated by the Thayer Street District Management Authority. you know, I'm kind of ambivalent about Brook Street being considered a main street anyway. If this was one lot in and it only had frontage on Waterman, then there wouldn't be this requirement. That was the justification at the time. There's been a lot of water over the bridge since then, so, you know, I think our position still stands that, in my opinion, I don't think it makes a huge amount of difference, but, you know, it's in your hands and you have this authority.
Well, actually, so speaking to that, maybe it's time to hear the staff report and open up public discussion.
Sure, thanks, Mr. Chair. So as we've discussed, this site does conform in part to the requirement of 503A8 of the ordinance that no residential use be located within 20 feet of a main street by providing commercial space on the Waterman Street frontage. And also, while with this area being converted to a dwelling unit, they will partly meet that by having approximately 24% of non-residential space on Brook Street when you account for the tower. And the stair tower, and as you've seen that frontage slopes from south to north with the present community space located at a higher grade than the street relative to the rest of the frontage. And they're not proposing any changes to the exterior. And based on that, we're not opposed to the change, given that it's not expected to have a large negative effect on the street, given its elevation from street level. So based on that, we would recommend that you approve the major change based on that.
Okay. We have heard the staff report. Let's open to public comment at this time. If there's anyone in this room who would like to speak on this matter, please raise your hand. And also, if you're joining us in our virtual room, please raise your virtual hand or press *9 if you're calling in. All right. Mr. Dolgarian, why don't you bring the mic to me? Thank you.
Thank you. It'd be nice if we could go back to the previous slides so we could actually see what we're talking about. Why we have a slide of us.
Well, do you have a comment? Go ahead and make your comment.
All right. I support the change. Makes sense.
Speak into the microphone a little bit.
I support the change. It makes sense. Waterman Street is a main street. Brook Street is not so much. And so using that frontage for residential makes sense as opposed to somewhere down the road being suggested that it would go commercial. So I support it being used for residential.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dolgarian. Anyone else wish to speak on this matter? Do we have anyone in the virtual room? Okay, with that, we will close the public comment portion of this agenda item. Well, we have to make a vote at some point. I still have the same feeling as I had at the beginning of this matter, which is it's not going to act or feel any different than it does today. I mean, there may be gym equipment in there, but they could put blinds up in a gym too. It's not a commercial space. It's a part of the residential building and they can use it for residential use.
Yeah, I mean, I take issue with a lot of things, obviously, but I ultimately, I mean, they could use it as storage space. So
That's allowed.
I think the vote that we're forced to do here, it seems like there might be no other logical conclusion, based on what we're allowed to enforce and not.
Yeah, it's already an operating building. So the entrances and exits are already solidified. Well, if there's no more discussion, I guess someone could make a motion either to approve or deny.
I'll make a motion to approve the gonna get puzzling.
Based on the findings in this.
Based on finding in the staff report.
Perfect. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We'll go around and do a vote. Noel,
No,
Charlotte,
Aye.
Sid,
I,
Miguel,
No.
I vote aye. Motion passes. All right, next one. Major change. I'm assuming you're back up again, Attorney Gary, to another project, case number 23-055 MI 150 Pitman Street.
Sure, thanks, Mr. Chair. So this is a request for a major change to another approved project, which was initially approved for 16 units with internal parking with a height of approximately 57 feet and 5 stories. And the applicant is here before you because they're requesting a major change to reduce the number of units from 16 to 8. And this qualifies as a major change due to a change in over 20% of the building envelope, as well as very apparent changes to the design. So yeah, applicant's here and they can tell you more.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I thought the first one was the easy one. Maybe not. So,
You never know, this one might be easy.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, this is we talked about earlier, this is a reduction, but your regulations talk about some change in the appearance and more than 20% change. I always thought that meant more, but it doesn't. So this is essentially the same project with half the number of units. Based on market studies, and as people go to market, everybody starts to see what it's, how it's gonna, whether or not they have sufficient parking. And always we talk about parking, you have enough parking, you don't have enough parking. So the thought was that this development required more parking spaces. And before it was 1-to-1, 17 parking spaces. So now you have 8 units and 16 parking spaces. So it's the footprint's slightly smaller, and as you can see from the design, the residential space no longer goes over the full length of the footprint. The footprint before was about 9,000, now it's about 8,000 square feet. And you have 16 parking spaces within the garage with 8 units.
So much larger units, I'm assuming.
Well, there's less footprint. Bruce Bisbano was here. We can talk about those issues, the size of the units versus what they were before, but clearly larger units than before, 8 units versus 16 units. I will say one thing with respect to the height. The height as shown is 60 feet from the average elevation. We were approved from 57 feet. We would commit to the existing height because that would be a change that was not advertised. So that we would commit to 57 feet from average elevation in connection with the final approval. Even though this shows 60. Mr. Pisano was here. He can answer any questions you have with respect to it, but basically that's it.
Okay. Take it away.
Size of the units versus what they were before.
First, Bisbano Associates Architects. So what we've done is.
Make sure to speak in the microphone, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
2 units per floor, 2 stair towers. Each unit is approximately 2,000 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. And like I said, we maintain overall footprint on the first floor pretty much intact. And then we step back for the residential above. As John mentioned, 16 parking spaces in the garage. The garage is an open garage, so it's ventilated. We can accommodate the 57-foot height. It's not a problem. The average grade that we determined was 28 feet. It varies from 25.75 to 29.5 in the back, 29.75. So that's how we came up with the 60 feet. But we can make that adjustment. We would actually change it by 8 inches per floor, just for modules. It'll be a little less than that. And, that's really it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Do you have, this is the updated rendering, I'm assuming.
Yes.
This is what you're proposing now. Do you have what was originally approved? All right, yeah, it looks,
I'll just put it up on the screen.
We can pass out the finishes, the chip finishes that we have here, we'll pass those out.
So, yeah, this is just larger, a little bit easier for you to read what the finishes look like. We were not able to get samples in time.
Thank you.
you guys like those dark brick and dark stone?
Can I ask, so is there? It's not shown clearly in any of the plans or the renderings, I don't think, but is there still the small house on the corner next to this building? So like if you continue this elevation to the right,
Yes.
okay. And can you just talk a little bit about why you, so my understanding is you have a relatively large building to the left of this building and then this very small house to the right. Is there a reason that all the mass of the building got sort of scooted to the right in the new plan?
Yeah, it's just a function of being able to accommodate the parking. So the parking garage is leading to 2 stair towers. And with only 2 units, there's not a lot of options for splitting the upper floors. If you're saying if you wanted to center it, something like that, we would be.
No, I'm wondering actually like if you mirrored the whole thing, so that the mass was kind of further, I guess, west on the street.
What she's saying is there's a large building
Sure.
to the left of this plan, and to the right, there's a small residential house. It would make more sense to have that mass against the large mass next to it instead of a big open space between the two.
As it stands, it sort of seems like it's gonna be this sort of strange missing tooth. The large building to the left does kind of step back, so it has a little bit of a sort of irregular massing, but it just seems like there's gonna be this kind of, I don't know, yeah, missing tooth in the street wall.
I can talk, I think, I'm not sure that house next door is gonna be maintained there. I don't know where it is or it isn't, but it might not be. No. So I would suggest it wouldn't be a reason to change it as a result of that. I'm just checking if it is still there, I just don't know.
Are you suggesting it might not
It might
exist
not-
any longer?
I am suggesting it might not be there.
I don't know.
Is it
The house?
a property owned by your applicant by chance?
I think it is,
Okay,
yes.
Got it.
well then, that changes the discussion, I guess.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, that building at the corner is in the C2 zone as well. So
Okay.
it would allow for some height.
Are there future plans with like something being added here or is this?
You mean like on top of the?
Yeah.
Top
like,
of the
it just-
garage.
Yeah, it seems like it. kind of
Off
a
the
mix.
tower.
Yeah, I mean, you saw what was original,
Right,
it carried the entire area.
I guess I'll keep going with
Yeah.
one more question. I think we've sort of encouraged people to go. In the past, we've encouraged people to use materials that look like what they are, and so I guess I'm also curious about this. I understand. Well, maybe you can talk a little bit about this material that looks like wood but isn't wood. Can you kind of run us through that and whether you guys would be open to using either something that is wood or something that, if maintenance is the concern, something that doesn't necessarily look like wood?
We would be open to using something that looks like wood. I think that the hardy board that's being used, is being proposed, I think is.
Sorry, I'm not talking about the hardy board. I'm talking about the cedar rendition siding.
Is there yes, that's basically, that's a metal panel that looks like it. You can certainly look into an option that would be natural wood.
An actual wood, or I think you're
Metal
proposing a
panel that
metal
looks like
panel,
metal panel,
Yeah.
yeah.
The metal panel will probably be a little more.
like the same thing. in a
Yeah,
different
I think
finish.
that, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. No, I'm informed three families still there on the corner of 98 Butler.
but it is in C two and and the applicant owns it currently, okay. So you can say not to take that into account.
Yeah, say it over.
So it seems like the part on the left of the garage is for 5 parking spots. To accommodate 5 parking spots, but underneath the residential piece. All the other parking spots are underneath. Anyway, just for the purposes of discussion, that it looks like the tower is in.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, I think, to be fair, it's part of their drive aisle. They wouldn't get the, oh, yeah. You could have sort of.
Can I ask what the reason is? I mean, I understand larger units, what the reason is, or rationale to shrink the size of the residential component.
I think the reason is that the demand is for 2 parking spaces for these types of units.
And it's solely based on parking.
I think so. That's what I'm told.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. If you have, I'll leave it at that, but,
But the building was only reduced by about 12% for a 50% reduction, so it couldn't have been just parking, right? Well, the parking, was it, how much,
So they're making larger unit, they're cutting the units in
Yeah.
half and they'll have 2-to-1 instead of 1-to-1.
right? Oh, I see what you're saying, so that they had enough parking.
Yeah, this was an area where we really were pleased with the density, and the size and the massing because it was appropriate. And it feels like a little hole because you're gonna be looking back at,
So I think what
a
I
hill.
was saying is if the covered parking on the left went away, it wouldn't look so much like that. Missing piece of structure on top of it. If they made 5 parking spots on covered.
Outside. Yeah, instead of covered. Or a carport or something that doesn't look as. I mean, you're saying it's an open air parking anyway.
it's not open.
Not, it's
No,
covered.
it's closed.
Roof is taken.
Mhm.
Well, let's keep thinking about this one. Let's hear the staff report and open up to public comment on this one, and then we'll go back to our deliberations.
Or commissioners, so we've talked about buildings design as well as the change. And we've discussed that the major change is being requested due to a reduction number of units as well as an appreciable change in the building's design. So the materials that they're using as well as the transparency conforms to the design requirements for development in the C2 zone. And as you can see, as we spoke about, the previous design had 2 building wings and this one has only 1. And based on the previous approval, the applicant will meet the canopy coverage requirement. They will meet the parking requirement, providing 2 spaces for each one of the 8 units. And they did request a dimensional adjustment that you granted in the amount of 57 feet and 5 stories. And you had granted that, making the finding that they were eligible based on providing structured parking. And as far as the environmental impact goes, they do need NBC approval as well as RIDEM. And the stormwater management plan that they had submitted showed that runoff would be reduced for 1 to 100-year events. They also had an erosion control plan, and that stormwater management plan will be subject to the city engineer's review. This conforms to the comprehensive plan, given that it's located in the neighborhood commercial land use designation where a multifamily development is encouraged. Multifamily development is also permitted by right in the C2 zone, and they will conform to dimensional and design requirements of the C2 zone. They will meet parking and landscaping as well. We don't foresee a negative environmental impact. This is a buildable lot, and adequate vehicular and pedestrian access will be provided from Pitman Street. So based on that, we recommend that you vote to grant the dimensional adjustment, finding that the applicant meets the criteria in section 1904E of the ordinance, and having made positive finding that they are eligible based on providing structured parking. And from there, we recommend that you approve the preliminary plan as well as the major change subject to these conditions, that the stormwater management plan shall be subject to the city engineer's approval. Any encroachment permit shall be submitted at the permitting stage, and that the height shall not exceed 57 feet and 5 stories in light of your previous grant.
So,
Okay,
the structured parking was part of the conditions for which we granted an approval.
correct,
Now the structured parking is what's making the building look funny.
correct.
I know, not a design.
Not all of it,
But
not all of it. There's
That
still
piece.
structured parking underneath the
So the question
building.
is the part underneath the building counted as structured parking, and could they have open parking on the side and still be eligible for?
So by definition, it's just what's under the residential that's structured parking, correct? How is that defined?
No, I don't think so. I think
Or is it
it's anything
roof
that's,
building?
it's within a building. Yeah.
So they would still have structured parking if it was.
But they still
not-
have some structured parking.
They have structured parking, this
If
definitely.
they cut off this section and left it open.
Yeah, if that's
And they
them
would
option.
have the 1 they would probably have 1 parking space per unit.
Which is what's required.
Yeah,
And they could still have open parking.
Actually, I don't even know if that's.
I'm not sure.
C2 zone.
So it wouldn't be running afoul of anything that was already approved to cut off this weird tail.
if we made the finding that they were still providing structured parking in this redesign, I believe that would still. Because they're still providing structured parking, just less structured parking,
I mean,
but there's also less units, so I think the ratio would still.
I think their problem is gonna be that the drive aisle requires a certain width, and right now, we're telling them that they should cut off the tail of the drive.
Yeah, I mean, you look at see how the door kind of extends
Yeah.
to the left. I mean, is there some kind of roof treatment that might make you feel better about that space there?
Yeah, if the roof continued.
Or is it? You know, not for nothing, if you took the floor space on the fifth story and
I mean, this is,
then put it into that space above the left part of the parking garage and made this a 4-story building, it wouldn't come in front of the city plan commission. I think we might have mentioned that to John at some point, I can't remember, but
And you'd probably be
I
able.
don't
to
know,
get
is there a
your
reason
ceiling.
why, John, it needs to be 5 stories as opposed to 4? Is it because you get a better water view from the fifth story? Might be, I mean, not
It's a real question.
not an illegitimate
Yeah.
reason to have that kind of height.
First of all, we got the approval. We're asking for a change, but we do have the approval.
Yeah,
So-
sure.
So it was always considered that we would go ahead with the approval as it was, making the changes that we're doing here. I don't know, you're suggesting taking the 5th story off and then you only have.
I'm not suggesting, I'm trying to problem solve
No,
here.
Well,
Yeah.
if we talk about, building on top of the little left wing there, the L there, so that instead of 5th floor, you'll have more units on the, or bigger units on the, no, more units on the first
On the
through
first
3rd
3
floor.
floors, yeah.
I'm not sure you'd get the same floor area. if you
Yeah, I
go
think
over
that's the,
the
yeah.
garage.
You might not,
No,
but you get more height. You get more ceiling height. In your dwelling unit,
so 1, 2.
because you were looking for that, I see.
What if you
Oh,
put,
because
what
they
if you
put
put a
2 units per
roof deck
floor,
here
yeah.
for this unit with a railing around it?
Okay,
Yeah.
Billboard.
It's a suggestion that I made, frankly, about it. And maybe, from a design point of view, you could make some condition to make it look like it's got a railing on it or something of that nature. You tell me, there might have been a reason why they couldn't do that.
No, we could put a railing around it, it's just a large space and you get one tenant that has that.
There you go. You're limited as to who can use it. Exactly.
well, don't you?
you can put us there, yeah. It nonetheless,
It's just that these are 2 really different designs.
they're two different
Like,
buildings.
these are totally different, and this, so,
Different design, less people.
yeah. Like, this has a totally different street present, this, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, you were maybe in the middle of calling trouble.
Yeah, let's open up to public comment at this point. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here in the room who wishes to speak on this agenda item? Maybe. Oh, yes, there is. And then if you're joining us in our virtual room, please raise your virtual hand or press *9 for us to call on you. And we will call the person on the sign-in sheet. Ian, please come on up. Good to see you too. It's been a couple months.
Summer. The Providence Urbanist Network was concerned there might be opposition to the new housing, so I'm here in their stead. I'm in the unusual position of not asking you to immediately greenlight whatever's in front of you. As you mentioned, there's a need for housing, and this new design is asking for all this parking. And I can't help but remember that a few months ago, this same applicant was standing in the way of a whole bunch of other things getting built because they felt discommoded by it. And so I guess on those standards, if that's how it works, then as a resident of Providence, many of us do feel discommoded by eliminating housing for more cars. And so if we are going to get in the way of building new housing ever, it would be for, something like this. So not that the applicant doesn't have a right to do with what they want on their property, but perhaps if they're asking the commission to bend over backwards, the things to bend over backwards for might be more housing, even larger units. We all need families, to live in Providence as well. But on a well-traveled street, right by grocery stores, convenience stores, bus routes, and the like, asking for variance specifically for more than one parking space, does not necessarily seem like the best use of all of the waivers. And again, if the applicant was not having a history of blocking other people's housing out of perhaps frivolous reasons, we would feel, I'll speak for myself, less entitled to speak on whether or not they could do this with their property. So anyway, just when considering standards set in light of the updated city plan and the goals for livability and Providence, I just urge you to think about what sort of variations are going to be allowed and sort of why and what serves the public good in Providence. As always, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ian. Is there anyone else here in this room who wishes to speak on this matter? Okay, Mr. Bulgarian, we will bring the microphone over to you.
Thank you.
And then again, if you're joining us in our virtual room, please press *9 or raise your virtual hand in the bottom middle section of your screen. Go right ahead.
Brent O'Garian, resident of the city of Providence. First of all, I want to say I support the reduction in density because, as you've heard me say before on numerous occasions, especially last year during the course of the review of the comp plan, density to me is a euphemistic term for overcrowding. And what I've said in the past is we look to see where we had 250,000 people in 1950 in the city of Providence and look to replenish those neighborhoods instead of overcrowding existing comfortably, currently people who are residing residential. I like the suggestion by Bob Azar to, instead of having a fifth floor, having those units on the fifth floor transferred to above the parking structure and making this a 4-story building. Again, I was not in favor of going higher than we had before in the zoning ordinance. To me, 3, at the most 4 stories is human scale. Once we get taller than that, it's beyond human scale. People come and live in Providence because we're a human scale city. And so that would be my thought. But I just wanted to indicate my support. Thank you.
Okay. And so to end, you support it. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone
We do
else
have a
on the
hand.
virtual?
Yeah, we have a hand up from Ruben Balagian. Mr. Balagian,
Yes, can you hear me okay?
yes, we can hear you. Go ahead and talk.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I'm in support of the project for a couple of reasons. One, I know a little bit about the initial approval, and as you know, this was approved quite some time ago. And one of the reasons the project has not moved forward is because of some studies that were done based on the tenant demands and feasibility, and the project just became financially not feasible, from what I understand. I think the approval of this project will still give the city 8 additional units rather than having an empty site just sitting there. That's been approved some time ago, so I think that'll be positive. And I personally like the aesthetic of some spacing. I think it provides some nice views for them from that western side, rather than putting the building right on top of the other building, which is also a multi-story building. So I think, it just gives some spacing there, which can be nice, and not necessarily just crowding the area. So I actually think that the space between the two buildings and the offset on the garage looks nice. The plan is to have some tubs and some nice tall windows in the bathrooms there, and I think that's going to provide some nice additional feel for space inside of the units. So I think that, yeah, I know everybody seemed to not like that design aspect, but I do think it's actually a positive aspect, as well as the idea of possibly having the second floor unit, maybe having an actual patio there rather than a balcony. I think that could be a nice addition, and make that garage rooftop feel a little bit warmer and a little bit more as far part of the building.
Okay, thank you. Just out of curiosity, are you a part of the design or the development team in any way, shape, or form?
I had some involvement with Bruce, and I helped put Bruce together with the developer, so I do have some involvement in the design.
That sounded that way. Okay, thank you. Anyone else here to speak on this matter? Okay, with that, we will close the public comment portion of this agenda item. I kind of like the old one.
I know, can't they just make the units bigger in the first design? Oh, what's the problem?
Right, like, do they need to be 2,000 square feet? Could they be larger than 2,000 square feet? Still pencil out. I mean, if you have a per square foot cost, I know when you're working on a development plan, and maybe it doesn't pencil out to build larger units and it costs more, after a certain size. And I'm not opposed to the project. I'm not opposed to the housing. I'm kind of turned off by the design and the way it's going to look in that area, with that big space in it. I do think if you were able to find a way to reduce the amount of garage space that doesn't have anything above it, it would be a much more palatable project. I just don't know how that's. But then again, we're here as the city plan commission, and we're looking at consistency and other impacts to the built environment. And we have certain findings we need to make.
One additional thing about modifying that garage entrance would make a more walkable streetscape again. Without that big wall, and there's a house on the left, a triple decker on the left side of the building.
I think that's gonna be demolished
That's gonna be demolished if it's not already.
for this project.
But there's something here.
Yeah,
That's a large building.
No, if you look at aerial photography or Google, there is a house there that may have been demolished. In any event, it would have to be demolished for this project.
It's on the lot.
It's on the lot.
You're talking about this one right here, the one right next to.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one will be demolished no matter what. The one on the corner may be demolished and is controlled by the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
So, I hear some consternation with respect to the design, not with respect particularly to the project. If two things, if I'd hate to continue it to allow us to design it, but I guess that's a possibility. And the other possibility is to make some suggestions of which staff could review and approve within the confines of what you suggest. You know, that's what I hear. I hear the design
Yeah.
isn't particularly favorable.
Yeah, I agree. We're looking for a building to be built. And then to have parking underneath, but not necessarily this big tooth in the middle with like,
Well,
there's a hockey player there.
I feel like I have a maybe slightly different comment than that, which, and I'm not sure exactly how this would play into our eventual approval, but we approved this originally for structured parking. It seems like you've got the structured parking and it's a really high parking ratio, which I think is one of the things that people are commenting on. And it seems like there's a lot of wasted space. And I would argue that either that space could become more building and more housing in it, or it could become, I mean, another way to get height is public open space or some sort of active open space, which may or may not work here. But I think, and there's also the suggestion of some sort of deck or roof deck or some sort of use on that area. I think maybe a lot of people here feel like there needs to be more building. I guess I personally feel like if it didn't feel like this was forgotten about space in some way, whether that's
I agree with that.
through activation or through building, it might appeal more.
Yeah, I think less building, and I don't think you need all of it to be structured parking, because we'd make the finding that you're providing structured parking if you're making structured parking underneath the residence, and if you find a way to have open air parking to meet your 2-to-1 ratio that you're trying to meet, I think.
So less
okay with that.
parking gives you less area, gives you less circulation, but what you're suggesting is maybe.
No, just not having it all under roof. You can have the same amount of parking. I think you might just have to figure out how to figure out how not to have that building over some of that parking that doesn't have anything above it. Cause that seems like wasted space. And yeah, you're right. Maybe a tree or two wouldn't kill a project.
People like open space and parking.
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to go back and take a look at this and come up with ideas, so we're not just throwing things against the wall, trying to see what maybe will be palatable to you, the applicant. I think that's a great idea. And you've heard our ideas, our thoughts, what we're looking for, what we're willing to bend on. I mean, I think, providing structured parking for this project, you can have structured parking underneath the building. I don't think you need to carry that structured parking out beyond the building footprint.
But you can still have parking.
But you can still have parking too, outside of that. You don't need to have, it just doesn't have to be a structure that looks like it's extended to
Can
meet.
you put the plan up just so I can understand what is, we're talking about here? So this comes out here. So you're suggesting that the structured parking would end over where the first floor of the residences ends?
Yeah, or some other way to make it look like it's not just forgotten.
Townhouse unit on top.
Yeah.
You don't have to go all the way to the top. If we even went halfway, I think it would.
Yeah, something. I mean, maybe make those first floor units bigger and expand them out, then put a little roof deck on it. We can.
Or maybe not everyone wants 2 cars. Maybe
We
some
can,
units only have 1 parking space.
we can throw out ideas all day long, but
So I'm gonna, at the risk of, alienating my client, I'm gonna request a continuance for a month. Maybe to come back with some redesign.
do date specific.
This didn't require notice.
Okay.
So,
So we can continue it until you're ready to come back. And then we can.
Well,
put it on the next-
I'd suggest a month because I don't wanna go out longer than that. And hopefully it wouldn't take a long time because hopefully the new plans would be relevant and appealing.
Oh, I hope so. So is our next meeting Tuesday, the 16th of September?
Let me just
That's the third Tuesday.
Yep, the 16th.
Okay. So the applicant is requesting a continuance to the 16th of September, our next scheduled meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion to that effect?
I'll make the motion to continue for, until the next meeting in September.
Based on the applicant's request. Make sure that's there.
Second.
Second, all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay,
Thank you.
we'll see you next month.
Appreciate it.
Let's take a little break. I could use the little boys' room and, we'll take a 5-minute break or longer. 5-minute break. We will come back at 6:39. 6:40. Actually, hang on, so, okay, all right, we're going to call this, this meeting of the City Plan Commission back to order. And we are going into our next agenda item, which is, where's my agenda? Agenda item number 7, which is a major land development project with Unified Development Review. It's a public hearing. The applicant is Swap. It's case number 25044 UDR 290 and 298 Public Street. And the attorney is here on behalf of this project.
Hi, I'm attorney Rachel Hamilton of Moses Ryan Ltd. I've also been informed that there is a quorum issue due to recusal, so we're gonna ask that we continue this meeting until the following meeting on September 16th or 17th.
Okay, with that, the members present on, it's Tuesday, September 16th, that we will continue this matter to. The members present here will vote on that. Charlotte or Sid, would you like to make a motion?
Excuse me, just before you guys make a motion, will we have to notice everything again as well?
No, that's why we're
Okay,
continuing to the
Okay.
date specific.
okay, great, thank you.
I'll make a motion to continue this item to our meeting on September 16th.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. And with that, we will adjourn this meeting. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
So move. A second.
Second.
Okay. All right. We'll see you next month.
Well, I gotta go home.